Hello guys and welcome back to Ollie's on the Ball. So these are my round 4 tips. So it's crazy to think that we're already into round 4 of the season, but now, as I said last week as well, things are starting to shape up. Who's good, who's bad, who's going to make finals, who's not. So last week 2 out of 8 Ollie's calls wasn't a great week for Ollie's calls, and 7 out of 8 tips, which I'm pretty happy about. So I was in the top 9% of tippers for the last round, so not too bad. So first game had Port Adelaide v Essendon. I tipped Port. Essendon ended up getting up by 12 points, so 28 points off with the margin. Not terrible, but not great. Then I tipped the Bulldogs. They got up over Carlton. Tipped Gold Coast over Melbourne. St Kilda over Richmond. Hawthorn over GWS. Brisbane over Geelong. Brisbane had a nice comeback and won there. Adelaide over North, and then Freo over West Coast. So some pretty easy tips to get 7 out of 8. So the first game of the round, pretty big game between Carlton and Collingwood. Should be a decent game. MCG, 7:30pm Thursday night. Collingwood, record of 2-1 last week. They had the bye, obviously because of opening round. Carlton 0-3, not a good start to the season for them last week. Lost to the Bulldogs by 8. They were up early in the game and looks like they were going to win, but then lost their lead late in the game and ended up losing. So this should be a pretty exciting match with Collingwood going in, as you would probably say the heavy favourites, given Carlton haven't looked very good this season. But you never know, Carlton-Collingwood always seems to be a close game. But I reckon Collingwood should get up pretty comfortably here. I'm going to tip them by 25, with my Ollie's call less than 80 points are scored in the second half. Next game, GMHBA Stadium, 7:40pm Friday, Geelong v Melbourne. Geelong record of 1-2 last week, lost to Brisbane by 9. I think they were up by 32 points at one stage in the second quarter, but then Brisbane got a comeback going. I think they kicked like 4 goals in a row, probably something like that, and then ended up coming back, taking the lead, winning in a close one by 9 points. And then Melbourne, record of 1-2. Last week lost to Gold Coast by 58. Melbourne with a record of 0-3, not 1-2. They have not looked good this season, losing to GWS where they looked okay, but then big losses to North Melbourne and Gold Coast, both in Melbourne. So not a great start for them. But being at GMHBA, where Geelong barely ever lose, you'd think Geelong will get up pretty comfortably in this one, so I've tipped them by 49 points. With my Ollie's call, Melbourne kicked 8+ goals in the first half. Next game, this is probably game of the round. Gold Coast v Adelaide, 1:20pm Saturday at People's First Stadium. These have been 2 really impressive teams to start the year. Gold Coast, now they have played Melbourne and West Coast, but they're 2-0. They beat Melbourne by 58, and before that they beat West Coast. So they've looked pretty good, both these teams undefeated. Then you've got Adelaide, who look just as good, 3-0. Last week beat North by 36. It wasn't their best performance, but North played pretty well, so they did well just to pick up a nice win and stay undefeated. So I reckon this is going to be a pretty close game, but Gold Coast are usually pretty good at home, so I'm tipping them to get up by 21, with my Ollie's call Anderson and Rao combined for 60+ disposals. Next game, MCG, 4:15pm Saturday, got Brisbane v Richmond. Now, you would expect that Brisbane should win this game. Richmond, record of 1-2 last week, lost to St Kilda by 82. I was thinking it might be another one of those Saints games where we make it close against a bad team, but the Saints really turned it on in the second half, left Richmond in the dust, and not a great showing for them, but they obviously still had a win so far this season. Brisbane 3-0, probably as unconvincing as a 3-0 start can get, as in they've beat Sydney, they've beat West Coast, they've beat Geelong, so a couple of good sides, but they just haven't looked their best in any of those games. But this is pretty straightforward. I'm going to tip Brisbane by 68, with my Oz Cole locking your scores 110 plus Supercoach points. Next game, Saturday night, Marvel, 7:35pm Saturday. Got North and Sydney. North's record of 1-2 lost to Adelaide by 36 last week, but they've looked better this season. North had that very nice win over Melbourne in round 2, and then they didn't play all that badly, I thought, against Adelaide. Adelaide at home is a pretty tough ask, and they only lost by 36 points compared to some of the other teams Adelaide have played this season in the margin. So that's a pretty good effort from North. Then you got Sydney, record 1-2 last week, had the bye because of opening round. And I reckon North have looked very good this season. Sydney haven't looked great. I'm going to go the upset here. I'm going to tip North Melbourne in a thriller by 2 points with my Ollie's call that Luke Parker has 25 plus disposals. First game on the Sunday, GWS v West Coast, 1:10pm at NG Stadium. GWS record of 2-1. Last week they lost to Hawthorn by 12, but it was a decent performance. The first half, especially in the game in general, was a bit up and down because of the wind, and it probably had a pretty big effect on the game, but they didn't look too bad. Hawks premiership favourites at Utah's, where you would say that Hawks usually play pretty well, so not a bad performance. West Coast 0-3. Last week lost to Freo by 38. Wasn't a great performance from West Coast. They showed signs, but it's going to be another long season for them this year. And I reckon GWS should comfortably get up in this one by 81 points, with my Ollie's called Jesse Hogan and Jake Stringer combined for 7 plus goals. 3:20pm Sunday game at Adelaide Oval is St Kilda v Port Adelaide. Port Adelaide with a record of 1-2. Last week lost Essendon by 12. Pretty disappointing performance for them being favourites, and Essendon not looking great to start the season. So not a great performance from them, and they slipped to 1-2. The Saints, on the other hand, record of 2-1, beat Richmond by 82. It's pretty hard to get a read on the Saints at the moment. Didn't look great in round 1, looked amazing in round 2, looked pretty good again in round 3. This game will be a real test for us though, and show if we're any chance of making finals this year. But I reckon Adelaide Oval, Saints don't play great there. Port are usually pretty good at home. Port will get up by 17 with my Ollie's call St Kilda lead at 3/4 time. Then the final game of the round, Fremantle v Western Bulldogs, 5:10pm at Optus Stadium on the Sunday. Freo record of 1-2, got their season off and going against West Coast last week, beating them by 38 points. They looked alright. Nothing fancy, but a win's a win, and you've got to bag those wins against lower quality sides. Then you've got Bulldogs. They've looked pretty good. Record of 2-1, beat Carlton by 8 last week. They lost to Collingwood only just. They've beat Carlton, and they beat North with a decent margin, but North have looked pretty good. So I reckon this should be a pretty close game, up there as game of the round with some of the other games like Gold Coast, Adelaide, but I'm going to probably go the upset here again, tipping the Bulldogs by 12 with my Ollie's call Western Bulldogs lead all match. So, got my tips for the round, first game of the round, going to go Collingwood pretty comfortably by 25. Then next game, Geelong-Melbourne, you'd think Geelong get up in this one. Gold Coast Adelaide, you think Gold Coast get up at home. Then Brisbane should get the win over Richmond. And then I'm going to go the upset here. I'm going to tip North to beat Sydney. This might look stupid this time next week, but I'm going to go for the upset. Then Giants to beat West Coast. Port Adelaide to beat St Kilda. And then finally going to go another upset, Bulldogs to beat Freo. So, those are my tips for the week of round 4, and we'll see how they go this time next week. Thanks for watching Oz on the Ball. I hope you enjoyed another tips video. So keep doing my weekly tips videos. Try and make some other videos at stages throughout the AFL season. But thanks for watching. See you next time.